At the end of the day, that's what people want. They want to have a human connection with their doctor. And once you start building more and more human connections, I think that's when my schedule started to really get full over and over and over again.
Hey, Smart Chiropractors. Welcome to the Smart Chiropractor Show and our featured guest segment. I'm Dr. Jeff Langmaid here with my co-host, Dr. Jason Deitch. And today we have the chance to sit down, I'm going to say for the second time, with Dr. Taylor Premer. Thank you for coming on and chatting with us today.
Oh, of course. Thanks for having me, guys.
Hey, most docs are familiar with your name through Winchester Spine and Sport. You've been closely affiliated with Brett for years. You guys have founded Gestalt Education as well. Fantastic podcast, awesome educational series. What is Gestalt Education? Let's start there. And why did you think about founding an education-based company?
Yeah, great starting point. So Gestalt at its core is it's a form of philosophy, basically. And it basically means that the sum is greater than any of the parts. And so when Brett kind of started thinking about names for his platforms and his education company, that was like the gist of it. The reason being is that we are homers for manipulation. We're chiropractors at heart. We don't, in a time where people are afraid to call themselves the chiropractor, we're out there saying that, no, we are chiropractors. But we believe that chiropractors can integrate a lot of different things into practice, which means manipulation, manual therapy, rehab, functional medicine, getting along with other professionals, which I know that was your big mainstay, Jeff. And so that at its core is what Gestalt is. We're hoping to help people build integration of these different ideas and concepts into a 15-minute appointment with your patients, because we believe that you should make a comfortable and professional income for sure by being a chiropractor. And then two, to give a great experience for your patient in that 15 minutes. And so, there's plenty of studies out there that show that when manipulation by itself is extremely powerful, but then when you integrate manipulation with rehab and some of those other things, now our outcomes are through the roof. And so that is what Gestalt is. We do have a podcast that we're pretty proud of. It started randomly. It was Bill Morgan was our first episode, and man, it's taken off from there. We've been lucky enough to sit down with the likes of James Andrews and Michael Shacklock and Gary Gray and Gray Cook and all these just incredible people. And we're so proud of it. And it is just an absolute blast. But to kind of finish your question, how it all began. So when I was an intern here at Winchester Spine and Sport here in Troy, I knew that I was going to be joining Brett to work here. And I had noticed just some systems in the office that weren't going well, which one of them was when Brett would host a seminar here, he would have our office manager, Lindsay, do the registrations, make sure we had coffee for people. I mean, she was doing everything. And granted, at that point, I mean, the office is booming. We have a couple hundred patients through here a week. So she's got enough on her plate trying to make sure that the billing goes through and stuff like that. And I thought, I bet we can make this a little bit easier. So just so happens my wife does marketing and does some web design. I said, hey, what would it take to build a website that we could do online registration and stuff like that? And 5 days later, we had the website built. I showed it to Brett, and the rest is history. And so it started out as just a little hole to fill in the office to try to make the systems a little bit better. And now, man, it's we've hosted courses now in I think 5 different states. Those are growing. And the podcast, and yeah, the rest is history, man.
Hey, Doc, do you have an email list of 300, 500 or more? If so, please connect with our team at thesmartchiropractor.com. With Patient Pilot, we can activate that email list and start generating reactivations into your practice each and every week. To schedule a demo and learn more, head over to thesmartchiropractor.com. Again, that is thesmartchiropractor.com. But right now, we'll head back over into this awesome interview on Interviews by the Smart Chiropractor.
You are a busy, busy man. Kudos to you. You're in active practice. You are doing events. Mm-hmm. You're doing a podcast on a regular basis. I want to just point out to people that your podcast is for chiropractors, not for, I'll call it, potential patients necessarily.
Yeah, exactly.
So I want to kind of go that angle and kind of dig a little bit deeper down there. I guess let's start with a couple things. What inspired you to want to focus on training and teaching other chiropractors? And if you can dig down a little bit deeper, our audience, we're trying to get them to understand that it's worth the time, and it does take time to start building an audience of people that you actually want to teach and invite. You read our book, The Payday Practice. Thank you for your kind feedback. But help us share with others what that journey is like, from the hey, I got an idea. What about if we start talking in a mic and sharing it with people on a regular basis?
Yeah.
And the journey from going where everybody starts from, which is 0 people as an audience, and growing it and knowing that it takes time and you've got to be patient with that process. What drives you and what can you tell us about your specific individual journey?
Yeah, our journey's a little bit weird in that the reason we started is we were bored during COVID, to be completely honest with you. And so, Brett, in the years past, I mean, I don't think there's anybody that has taught more than Brett Winchester, and I'm forever grateful for learning from him. And I've always kind of had a passion from learning. I got hooked up with him in chiropractic school, and I the first time I saw him teach, I had no idea what the hell he was talking about. I just knew that I needed to be around this guy. And so, fast forward to then group practice with him and learning and having things like that. This building, Winchester Spine and Sport, is basically an educational institution. And so Brett's built it that way. We have shadows, man. Right now we have 4, soon to be 6 interns. And so it's built like an educational platform. And so, you can't get away from your successes and failures, and especially when it comes to other colleagues. And so I was always pretty comfortable talking to people about what we're doing here, and there's really nothing to hide. And so that was when, I was like, Brett, people probably, they're not coming out here to see us as much because it's COVID. Why don't we just go to them? Why don't we bring this education to them? And then, Brett has built all these relationships over the last 25 years of teaching. I bet they would love to sit down with us. And so that's where it all started, is just kind of on a whim and building Gestalt at the end. I mean, obviously the hope is that as people are listening to the podcast, they're interested by what Brett and I are talking about, and eventually will maybe find their way to our website and sign up for our email list, and then maybe join a course with us later on. But that's kind of the hidden agenda, if you will, although in today's day and age, it's not really hidden, because that's just kind of what's expected out of businesses, which kind of takes you to your question about, building it for an office. I think that even if I worked with Brett, I would have probably found a way to have a podcaster to be talking or something like that, because it not only does it build your expertise as a person, but, as you guys have talked about in the Payday Practices, people want to hear from you. People want to be around you, especially they want to ask you questions about health. And I hope that you're wanting to give them the answers. And so why not just bring it to them? Why not be in front of them? And so, I think that's the great thing. And, it was slow building the podcast early on, but I mean, once it hit fire, holy smokes. I mean, it is exploded, bigger than we would ever imagine. We thought maybe 10 or 20 people would listen to it. Now, we're up to the thousands and close to 10,000s of people, which is, it's humbling one, but it's also, it's pretty awesome. It makes you feel good. And honestly, what drives me is just learning. Like we sat down with Michael Shacklock this week, and that got released, and he is the world expert in neurodynamics. And so getting a chance to learn from him, and to, we had a half-hour conversation before it started, and to ask him some questions, and just little things like that, and building relationships is what it's all about. And man, talking about just an awesome community. Chiropractors at its core, as much as we like to fight, we're all the same people. We all love our patients. We all love being around each other. And so I think that at the end of the day, that's what drives me, is it's fun. It constantly pushes me, because every single time I go to a course or someone comes at Shadows, they'll ask me a random question about an episode, episode 5, I think we're up to 80 now. Hey, at the 30-second time mark, so-and-so said this. What do you think about that? And then it's like, oh crap, now I can remember what the heck they were talking about. So little things like that push me, and it makes me better. I'm sitting in my treatment room right now. It makes me better in here for my patients, and it makes me better to, hopefully one day eventually teach and just to be a resource for the people around me. That at my core is my why, is to be a resource for the people around me, whether that's my patients, my family, my friends, or other chiropractors or PTs, or whoever it is. And so, that's kind of the story.
That's fantastic. And I think you are already a tremendous resource, far beyond probably even what you know today. So thank you for everything that you do. A clinical question comes to mind for me, and it's around Gestalt and what you said at the top, which is highlighting spinal manipulation or an adjustment. You've spoken with a bunch of rehab and movement-based specialists throughout the podcast. You have chiropractors and non-chiropractors.
Yeah.
Why is it that there are some chiropractors that are really movement and rehab focused that have lent away from the adjustment or the manipulation at the core of their service. Do you have any thoughts on that?
It's so frustrating. Man, we actually, it's funny you asked that. We had that discussion when we were in Park, Orlando, Jeff. And so us three, and the more I think about it, I really don't have a great idea other than it's just an overcorrection. Like when we're in school, when we don't necessarily agree with everything that's being taught by our professors or, in the philosophy side of it, it's almost like an overcorrection to the other side. The pendulum swings so far into the evidence-based medicine in quotations, because we know that there's probably nothing more evidence-based in our community than manipulation. But I think the pendulum just gets swung so far, and people are unwilling to put themselves with that other group, if you will, that they shy away from it. And I think it's a shame. One of the big things themes in our podcast is Brett and I, we always ask people about palpation, because the big thing right now is the boohoo on palpation, boohoo on specificity, boohoo on all this other stuff that is minutia when it comes to spinal manipulation, in my opinion. And in reality, that makes students, I think, trust the people that are in these higher up positions teaching and stuff, saying that, no, you can't feel that. You can't do that. What's the point? Just do this instead. And in reality, those people are not seeing patients. They're not sitting here grinding through and suffering with their results. And I'm here to tell you that if a patient comes to me and doesn't get a great manipulation or doesn't get manipulated in general, they're going to go somewhere else that's going to. I'm in small town Missouri. I see all my successes. I see all my failures. When I go to Walmart today, I guarantee I'm going to run into one of my patients, and I hope to goodness it's a good experience, and every once in a while you go up and try to fluff your feathers, and that person, oh, hey, Miss Jones, like, how's your back doing? Oh, well, actually I went somewhere else, and, they gave me injections, and now I've had my third spinal surgery. It's so that's, those are tough ones, but they're also learning experiences. So I don't know, to finish my thought, I think it's an overcorrection, and I think that it's an unnecessary overcorrection. I went through that period of time in my depths of chiropractic school where it's stressful. You maybe don't agree with some of the stuff being said, but if I could go back and do it over, I would find a connection with my professors and my clinicians, because there's something you can learn from everybody. They just haven't been exposed to the same things that you have, more than likely. And at the end of the day, they're trying to do the best they can. And I think all clinicians are trying to do the best they can. They just maybe don't have the resources. So, it was a long drawn out answer, but I think it's an overcorrection and an unnecessary one, to be honest with you.
Appreciate that very much. And I think you're absolutely right. I do have to ask, just for my own kind of personal, we've sort of thrown out the word spinal manipulation, adjustment, the difference to you, why one versus the other. Are they synonyms in your opinion? Are there distinctions that you make that are important for us to be aware of?
No, I think it's the same. I really do. The reason I use manipulation is in a lot of the research, that's what they call it. They call it spinal manipulation. And so that's just somewhat of a habit that Brett and I have gotten into through reading the research and stuff like that. And then the other thing too is we talk to a lot of other professions too. And so manipulation is a little bit easier of a transition, if you will, if you're talking to athletic trainers or PTs or, MDs, stuff like that. But I think it's the same. At the end of the day, end range manipulation or a spinal adjustment is the same. The goal is to impart motion in the joint. And yeah.
All right. If I'm going to follow up, if that's all right, Jeff.
Please do.
So help, I guess, our audience get a better understanding of your experience teaching. In this case, we'll call it a podcast, but that's a wide term these days. We're doing that right now. It could be video recorded. It could be audio only. But if you could share your experience specifically around the differences between doing it alone versus doing it with a co-host, one, and then two, you mentioned interviewing other people. I know in sort of I'll call it B2B or professional realm, you can interview other professionals, but to whatever degree you can sort of think how the benefit of working with other people has helped spread your message, because your guests will also help you spread that message to their audiences, assuming you're doing it right with the right intentions and it's providing value to people. How do you think that would relate to practicing chiropractors who may not necessarily want to teach other chiropractors, but want to use these same principles to grow their audience, to grow their practices?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. You kind of answered it in your thing, which is it's necessary. I mean, I think whenever you can associate yourself with people, I'm always going to relate it back to our small community, a small community of people that are trusted, number one, and number two, have an influence. And so I think whenever you can associate yourself with people, we did a series, or we do a series here at the office, just to give you an example of how you could do that. The first Wednesday of every month is a staff meeting. And every staff meeting, we bring in a community leader or someone nearby us that's doing big things, whether that may be the president of the bank here in town, the superintendent of the high school. We have one of the top 1% State Farm agents in Troy, like little things like that. They come in and they give us about a 15 or 20 minute talk to our staff. And then early on, when I had extra time, my schedule had some holes in it, we'll put it that way, I would actually interview them early on about their success, what's made them successful. And then we would put that out on our clinic, pages, YouTube, email and stuff like that. And so that really helped me, number one, to gain some prestige with those people, the people of influence. And then two, it kind of made me a little bit more human. I'm not from Troy, Missouri, and it can be difficult when you come into a new city or a new community to make your name established. Because a lot of times, in these small communities, there's cliques. People maybe don't trust you. They don't know you. Your family's not from here. They don't have any experience with you. And so little things like that can build rapport, which at the end of the day, that's what people want. They want to have a human connection with their doctor. And once you start building more and more human connections, I think that's when my schedule started to really get full over and over and over again. Because, getting new patients, we have a saying here, we have two different colors of new patients on our ChiroTouch. One is pink, and that is just a random new patient, a walk-in, we'll call it that. The green, though, that's the referral. Nobody likes seeing pinks on your schedule. If it's a green, you have a pretty good idea that, I can take a little bit of a breath. I don't have to over-educate here or anything like that. They probably know what they're getting themselves into.
That is a great answer. And I'd recommend everybody listening and watching, rewind and listen to that answer again, because powerful, powerful stuff. One of the things that I noticed, Taylor, as you've described your journey a little bit, the journey of the practice and certainly of the podcast, is clearly you're an action taker. You were as a student, as coming out of school, you said, I'm going to practice here with you. You went up there, made it happen. You made things happen. For so many docs out there, and non-docs as well, we can become mired in the mud, right? We get stuck in the mud and are unable to take that initial action. For docs listening that love everything you're saying, but maybe are a little reluctant or haven't got over the hump to start that podcast, to shoot that video, to do what they'd want to do, what advice would you offer?
Just do it. I mean, just start somewhere. That's where we started with the podcast. People won't believe this, but our first couple episodes on our podcast, I recorded it from this thing right here. So Anchor is what we used our podcast on, and I plugged lavalier mics into my phone, and we put them in the middle of us, and that's what we recorded the podcast on. So people get so caught up in doing it so perfect right off the bat, and it'll delay it, because imperfection or that thought of it not being awesome is always going to get in the way. And so I think just starting somewhere, one, and then two, finding someone that you can ask questions to, not being so boastful that you can't ask someone like, hey, I don't know how to do this. Like, if, I know you've been successful at this, where would you start? Or like, what equipment do I actually need? Or the little things like that. When I was, again, had plenty of time early on, I used to do these things called Tuesdays with Taylor on our Facebook page. Facebook is big in Troy, and so that's the platform I picked it on. And I did a live video every single Tuesday for, I think I did 45 straight weeks or something like that. And it was about dumb stuff, hydration, what the heck is the pop in your back? Little things that honestly I didn't get. I maybe got a handful of patients from it, but what it taught me is, one, how to communicate. And then two, how do I think on my feet a little bit, get better at doing these things. And then like that has transitioned over into the podcast. It's transitioned over into building relationships with people around, and, just not being afraid of messing up, to be honest with you. Cause I think that's a lot of people think is like, well, if I get on a video here, I'm going to have to edit like crazy. I'm going to do all that kind of stuff. We don't edit anything in our podcast. So like there is nothing edited. And I just always challenge people. And that's, we just have a new doctor. He's about 5 months into practice, Pete. and he's taken over my Tuesdays. I just think it's a great way to just start somewhere, and then you can build off of that momentum more and more and more and more. Heck, maybe it's you're starting your clinic social media page. Just post something every day, whether it's a repost, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just do something. Just put it on your calendar. And if you start little, the next thing you know, you are sitting down with James Andrews, and you got a huge podcast, or your schedule's full. And I think just showing up every single day and doing a little bit every single day and making yourself feel that little bit of uncomfortableness, big things will happen for you.
I love it. We always teach that a good something is better than a perfect nothing.
Absolutely.
So to your point, and Jeff, of course, always says that results follow action. So yeah, all of those bumper stickers apply.
Yeah, exactly. They're cliche, but dang it, they're so true. I mean, half of it is just showing up, and that's what I tell people. That's we have a contract with the high school here in town, but being the athletic trainer, didn't have a great relationship at first. He kind of thought I was stepping on his toes, and I just started showing up to the school once a week. I would go hang out with him for an hour, and I would sit in the corner and I would watch him maybe screw some stuff up or do some stuff wrong, but I didn't say a dang word until a year down the road, he finally started asking my opinion. Now we have an awesome relationship. And I would say 90% of my patients come from the high school. But if I didn't show up consistently and deal with that little bit, I'd be nowhere. So,
hey, it's Dr. Jason. I just want to take a brief moment and invite you to schedule a demo with our team to learn more about our patient pilot automated email campaigns. They are the smartest way to reactivate the people you've seen over the years in the past. Check it out, schedule a demo. We look forward to helping you help more people and piloting your patients back into your practice. Now back to our show. Well, you just scratched on where I'd like to go a little bit farther, which is I want to go back to your comment earlier about the different colors of types of patients that come in. And it sounds to me like there's a couple of things. One, you're not lacking new patients. It doesn't seem like you have to be doing deep discount advertising every month because you always need more new patients, unfortunately, like many in our profession seem to do. And so if you're not in the same position as them, it's because you're doing something different.
Yeah.
Maybe you could elaborate a little bit more. What do you do specifically to focus on stimulating referrals and people sharing chiropractic with others, maybe sharing the podcast or the Tuesday program and so on, versus, again, doing, I guess, what much of our profession does, which is kind of go, boo-hoo, I need more new patients. They don't stick around, and they buy into this, whatever you want to call it, scarcity consciousness, limited thinking. They think people don't want to learn things. They just want you to, crack them and leave. And yet, if you've been teaching, you actually have a different experience in that because people really do want to know. What do you specifically do to kind of focus on more of the kinds of ideal clients you want, knowing that your door is always open for people that end up there for whatever reason, not being by referral? What do you do to stimulate higher quality people that you want to really care for?
Yeah, I got an embarrassing story to start. So I joined this group practice. My hero, Brett Winchester, he's got a busy practice. He's got a wait list. And I thought, I can't wait, man. I'm just going to show up and going to have some new patients on the schedule. It's going to be great. So for the first couple of months, I'd say 6 months, I sat in my office and waited. And I waited and I waited. And people didn't just show up. It's kind of crazy, as funny as that sounds. And so I put my ego aside and went to my wife, who is the marketing expert, my life coach, and said, what the hell what is going on? How are people not just showing up? It's like, well, nobody knows who you are. So that's when I had to get real. And it all started, I had a high school kid. It was a week before the state championship, Final Four in basketball. She sprained her ankle. And I'll never forget, she came in, luckily, she wound up on my schedule. She was a reactivation, or someone had been to the practice before, showed up in my office, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. So you got to play on Saturday. And this is on a Monday. She was like, yeah, I got to play. I was like, oh, I could do this. This will be fun. So took me down the journey. I saw her every single day that week. We did all sorts of awesome rehab, had taping techniques, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, plays in the Final Four, got the MVP, just like a dream scenario. I remember that week, though, I woke up every morning. I was so excited and enthused to go to work. And I thought, man, so then at the end of this, I'm kind of gloating, I'm fluffing my feathers, and I go to my wife and say, you'll never guess. And she said, maybe you should, consider marketing to those people. Maybe you should treat more of those people. I thought, oh, that's kind of a good idea. It's typical. If you listen to your wife, usually things are going to happen well. So anyway, we sat down and we made a plan that day. Okay, well, how the heck do I get in front of high school kids? Well, one, the high school would be a good area to go to. It's a small community. Parents probably want some expert opinions when it comes to their kids getting hurt on the school. There's an athletic trainer over there who we have the contract with. This would be an easy utilization. So that's when I made the decision to just start showing up there. And it's been fruitful. I'm actually working with 2 other high schools now, and that's my main practice, is working with other high school kids. So that's where it went for me. But honestly, like, if it wouldn't have been for that patient to come in with an acute ankle sprain, it would have taken me longer to get to that point. We'll put it that way. But the biggest advice I have is just sit down and think about like what that actually looks like. Who do you actually want to see walk through your doors? Because a lot of times chiropractors are just like, well, I just want to treat low back pain. Well, that's great. But like, what kind of low back pain? Do you want like the construction workers? Do you want the stay-at-home moms? Because then, as you guys know, with marketing, it completely changes your messaging. I learned really early on that high school kids aren't making the decisions about where to take them, right? It's the parents. The parents are the ones that I need to start talking to. And so I started changing how I worded things in my Tuesdays with Taylor and on social media. I started talking towards the moms, because they're usually going to be the ones that are on Facebook and probably making the decisions on where to take the patients. And then I started to, every time I would see a new injury at the high school, I would call the parents on my way back to the office. And that was uncomfortable, because not only did I have to, they didn't know who I was usually. I had to tell them that their kid was injured. And 3, I had to convince them to spend money to come be with me. So that was a really, really good learning experience, though, because if I could do those things concisely, I had a great, I call it a kill rate. I had an awesome ROI on that, because usually the parents they're used to the kids saying what to do. And then the parent is left to make the decision of where the heck do I take my kid? And then 2, it's up to the parent to decide, well, are you actually hurt? Or maybe you don't want to play, or maybe, little things like that. So I had to bring a lot of confidence, and it taught me a lot about that. So those are like my big things. And, early on, I was involved in everything in the community. I went to every golf tournament and stuff like that. And once I figured out who I wanted to treat, now it's just a yes or no for me. Does this bring more high school athletes into my office? Yes or no? If it's a no, then I politely say no. And I ask maybe some of the other docs in the office to do that for me. But that's also how I've stamped my ground in a group practice, which I think it can be difficult, as, we have 4 other providers in here. And so I had to carve my niche in this group practice in itself. And, I couldn't be happier with how it happened. And it's not to say that everyone needs to treat high school kids or, whatever. Everybody has their own niche. Maybe you want to treat headaches, do those types of things. I think it's just taking the time to get very specific on who you want to see and how you want to see them. The other thing, sorry, one more thought. We have a very large tenant that actually, kind of works right into the payday practice with. We do not think wellness care or maintenance care is a bad word here. My goal is to treat people long-term. The reason I say that is because we are not bought into pain. Yes, we care about our patients' pain, but we are very function-based. Said another way, if we can change the way our patients are functioning, then we can change their pain and we can change their life. But it doesn't happen in 2 visits. So we have short initial treatment plans, twice a week for 3 weeks is usually, unless it's something more acute. But then my goal is to have a relationship with that person until either they die or I die, which is, that's kind of a dramatic way to think of it. But I'll tell my patients that, hey, Mr. Jones, you pour concrete for a living. You also drink a 12-pack of Mountain Dew a day, and you smoke heaters. And so, like, as much as I want to talk to you about changing your diet and, working out and stuff like that, I'm going to guess you're not going to. So why don't we put in an insurance policy, see me once a month, get adjusted. Let me make sure that we don't have these big blowups with your back anymore. And then you'll be good to go. It's not to say you're never going to have low back pain again, but at the very least, you're doing something for yourself once a month to hopefully help your overall health. And I know Jeff can quote the research on it, that the Nordic maintenance care studies, people that get manipulated once a month, even sometimes more than once a month, they have better outcomes. They spend less. I mean, the research is out there to support it. So that's another way that we stimulate filling our practice. Today, I think I saw 15 this morning. I think I had 8 that were just my monthly patients. And so it's little things like that that keep your schedule full in its weekly recurring revenue.
That is a perfect place to wrap up. Nordic study, love it. It is about discovering emerging problems and preventing future problems. You said that very well. That'd be a great jumping off point for another 2 hours, but we are going to be having that right now. Taylor, thank you so much for coming on. But before we wrap, I know you guys have some great educational tools for docs listening and watching. Where can they learn more?
Yeah. So as far as Gestalt, gestaltedu.com, gestaltedu.com. If you go in there and you click courses, that's where our courses are. And if you scroll down to the bottom, or there'll be a pop-up, it's for us. But if you use the code integrate on our course called Integration, it's a free course. It's 2 hours of Brett and I. It's a lecture portion all about how we integrate multiple different systems into a treatment. And then there's also a case study of Brett working up a spondylolisthesis case, as well as some input from Dr. Hahn, who is a radiologist here at Logan University. And it's a great explanation of spondylolisthesis and also kind of how we work through those cases. So I'll send that to Jeff if you wouldn't mind giving the link to it. But that'd be the best place. And then the Gestalt Education Show, we're pretty proud of it. There's no in the world where nothing's free. This is legitimately free. We like to promote our friends, which is why you'll hear a nice little ad at the beginning for the payday practice. But that's our gold medal. And if there's anybody out there that would like to come shadow or get to hang out with us, where it's an open door here. So you just let us know.
Thank you so much, Taylor. We will drop all of those links down below. Docs listening and watching, be sure to take advantage of these tools and resources. Brett, Taylor, and their team over there, they know what they are doing. Awesome clinicians, great guys. We loved having you on, Taylor. Thanks for chatting with us today.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for being there.
Thank you so much for watching this video on The Smart Chiropractor. To not miss a single thing that's clinically oriented, marketing oriented, or more, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel today.